The car gleamed under the kind of showroom lights that make everything look shinier than it is. The salesman had already poured us free coffee, already joked about the new car smell. I'd started picturing the drive home, radio on, windows down, my hand on his knee like something from an advert. Then the finance guy slid a clipboard onto the desk and cleared his throat. "Okay, so we've run the checks," he said carefully, like he was about to tell a child their goldfish had died. "The credit score, it's not where we need it to be. It's poor." He didn't say trash, but I heard it anyway. My fiancé gave a weak smile, like maybe there was a punchline coming. I just stared at the little black box that had taken his details and spat out the truth. "How poor?" I asked, even though I didn't understand credit scores the way he clearly did. The finance guy gave a number. My fiancé's face shifted, the kind of shift you only notice when you know someone well. That's when the seed planted itself. He already knew it would be bad. "Right," I said, my voice flatter than I meant. "So that's a no then." The man tried to soften the blow. Higher APR, bigger deposit, other options. I shook my head. I wasn't about to pay double for a shiny lie. We stood, though not together. I went first. He followed like a shadow with a delay. Outside, the sunlight felt cruel, bouncing off windscreens like it was laughing. He started the engine of his old car without looking at me. "I didn't think it would be that bad," he said finally. But the weak smile told me otherwise. Looking back, the signs had been there. They weren't flashing alarms, more like faint beeps I kept muting. Rent days when he'd pat his pockets and say, "I'll sort it Friday," like Friday was some magical fix-it day. Restaurant bills where he'd insist, "I've got it," only for the card machine to blink and stall before I slid mine across the table. Jokes about daylight robbery whenever taxes or bills came up. Then there were the envelopes. Brown, windowed, stacked neatly in a drawer we never opened. He always called them just statements, waved them off with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. I told myself it was stress. I told myself he hadn't grown up like I had, where my mom drilled save 10% into me, and my dad made us balance pocket money like it was Monopoly practice. He'd grown up with bills that chose what got paid first. Different worlds, I reasoned, different math. But in the dealership, when the finance guy said poor, every ignored beep turned into a siren. At home that evening, he made tea like it could patch the silence between us. I stared at the kettle, at the drawer, at him. "Show me," I said finally. He froze. "What?" "The drawer, all of it, now." His smile flickered, then vanished. He pulled out the stack and set it on the table. Thick, heavy, a deck of cards, each one with our future written in red. He tried to shuffle the letters into a neat pile, as if tidiness could disguise the numbers printed in bold. "A couple credit cards," he muttered. "A loan. The store card. Don't worry, it's small." I kept my eyes on the pages. 3 $200 on a card at 24.9% APR. A personal loan close to $7,000, 2 payments behind. Store card debt pushing 1,000, late fees stacking like bricks. "Small?" I said. He wouldn't look at me. "It's manageable." I just fell behind. I was ready to close the drawer on that pile of shame when one envelope slid free. Different letterhead. Finance company. "What's this?" His face drained before he even opened it. That was answer enough. But he handed it over like it was burning him. "Notice of default. 2 missed payments. Repossession considered." "Car finance?" I asked. My voice felt foreign in my throat. "I thought you sold your car." He rubbed both hands over his face. "I did. I mean, technically it's still in my name. My ex drives it." We co-signed. She promised she'd take care of the payments after the breakup. "She promised? You believed that?" His eyes were wet but defiant. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to look like an idiot. The air between us felt sharp enough to cut. The next morning, a tow truck pulled up outside our flat. Orange lights flashing through the blinds. A man in high-vis knocked on the door. "Here for the Ford," he said flatly. My fiancé stammered, "It's not here." High-vis didn't care. "Then we'll be visiting the alternative address on file." I didn't need to ask. I knew exactly where that was. His ex's driveway. And in that moment, his lie wasn't just paperwork anymore. It had wheels, a registration plate, and a tow truck on its way. After the repo scare, I couldn't shake the dread that the debts weren't contained to him. I needed to know if any of it had bled into my name. So I sat with my laptop, logged into my credit report, and waited for the screen to load. My stomach flipped before I even scrolled. There they were, soft searches from lenders I'd never heard of. Catalog credit, payday loan companies with pastel logos designed to look harmless, high-cost lenders sniffing around like vultures. I spun the laptop toward him. Why are these here? His mouth opened and closed. I just checked, just to see if you get approved. It doesn't mean anything. You used my details? My voice was flat, but my pulse roared. It was just a comparison, he said quickly. I wasn't going to actually. But the words landed heavy. Trust doesn't survive just a comparison. As if the universe wanted to underline the betrayal, the Evening Post arrived. A crisp white envelope with my name in bold. I tore it open and nearly laughed from shock. Welcome to your new contract. A phone plan, my address, my date of birth, my signature. Except it wasn't mine. He stammered before I even asked. I was going to cancel it. I just thought, upgrade your phone, sell your old one, we'd get the cash for the deposit on the car, and I held up my hand. Stop, just stop. The silence after was unbearable. His face was pale, his lips trembling with excuses. But I'd heard enough. I grabbed a bag and stuffed it with the essentials: charger, jeans, socks. I texted my sister, "You home?" She replied instantly, "Yes." At the door he begged, voice cracking, "Please, don't go. I'm not a bad person." I didn't say you were, I told him, yanking the zip closed. I said I won't be collateral. And then I left. I came back the next morning, not because I'd forgiven him, but because I needed answers written in black and white. No more stories, no more, "I'll sort it Friday." He looked hollow, like he hadn't slept. I dropped a notebook and pen on the kitchen table. "Here's the deal," I said. "We write down every debt, every single one. Then we call every creditor. If you lie today, I'm done. If you ever touch my name again, I'm done. Understand?" He nodded, throat tight. We began. Credit card, $3,200. Loan, $6,500. Store card, $980. Phone arrears, $400. Car finance, $9,000 outstanding. 2 payments missed. Repo in progress. I wrote each number in neat columns, my hand steady even though my chest felt like it was shaking. The page filled up quickly, line after line. By the end, it looked less like a budget and more like a police report. "This is your life," I said, tapping the paper. "This is why we couldn't get a car. Why we might not get anything. Ever." He buried his face in his hands. We called. Card companies, loan providers, debt collectors, one by one. He put it on speaker and gave permission for me to listen. Some agents were kind, offering payment plans or interest freezes. Others were cold, reading from scripts designed to shame. Each time I wrote the new numbers down. Reduced payments, minimums due, next dates. By the end, the page looked like a crime scene. Figures circled in red, arrows pointing to deadlines, scribbled notes about final chance, and last warning. I sat back, pen down. "That's the truth. Now it's your job to fix it." He nodded again. Broken. And for the first time, I believed he knew the scale of his mess. When we'd finished calling creditors, I thought I had the full picture. But debt is like mold. It creeps deeper than you can see. Something in his face told me there was still more. "We need to talk to your mom," I said. His head snapped up. "Why?" "Because this doesn't happen in a vacuum. People don't just forget 5 different payments unless they're spinning other plates. If you're helping her, I need to know. If she's in trouble, I need to know." He didn't argue. He just slumped, like I'd pulled the last excuse from him. That afternoon, we drove to his mom's council house. She opened the door with a smile, but it cracked when she saw him. "What's wrong?" she asked. Worry instantly etched across her face. We sat in her small kitchen that smelled of stew and laundry powder. He broke first. He told her everything. The repo letter, the phone contract, the mess I'd seen written out in black ink. His voice wavered, but he didn't stop. She cried, not in shock, but in guilt. "I tried to keep it from you," she whispered, clutching his hand. "You do so much already. The hospital trips, the prescriptions. I didn't want to add to your load." Piece by piece, the story came out. She'd lost her job last year. The gas bill doubled. Medication costs piled on. A neighbor had suggested a friendly loan company. She signed without understanding the fine print. Interest ballooned. She panicked. Told no one. When she finally broke, she turned to him. He'd taken a high-cost loan in his own name to cover hers. When that suffocated him, he took another, then another. And eventually, the letters became too much to open. I sat there stunned. It wasn't just recklessness. It was loyalty warped into disaster, family pressure he'd tried to shoulder alone, shame that had metastasized into lies. On the drive back, the silence was heavier than debt. He stared out the window. I thought if I could keep you both afloat, no one would know. I thought I could fix it before you noticed. I didn't answer. Love doesn't erase arithmetic. The next stop was his ex's. I hadn't wanted to face her, but the repo man's words still rang in my ears. Alternative address on file. She opened the door with suspicion sharp enough to slice. What now? They're coming for the car, I said flatly. This morning they were at ours. Next it'll be here. Either you keep paying every installment on time with proof, or you hand it back now. Her face flickered through anger, denial, and finally exhaustion. She looked at him. He looked at the ground. I've been paying, she muttered. Mostly. I mean, I missed a couple when nursery fees. Mostly isn't good enough, I cut in. It's his name, his debt, his credit. If you can't carry it, hand it back. Her shoulders sagged. She grabbed the keys from the counter and shoved them into my hand. Fine. Tell them to take it. And just like that, another lie collapsed. Driving away, he whispered, Thank you. Don't thank me, I said, turning the keys over in my palm. Pay them. That was the moment I understood. The chaos wasn't just his bad habits. It was inherited weight, shame, and silence, and it was dragging us both under. That night, I laid the car keys on the table between us like evidence. Here are the rules, I said. My voice was steady, sharper than I felt. No new credit, no borrowing, no just checking applications. You pay bills before anything else. You show me proof, screenshots, statements, whatever. And you never ever use my name again. Not for a test, not for a plan, not for a dream. Clear? He nodded, tears streaking down his face. For once, he didn't argue. The next week, he followed through. He sold a pair of trainers he'd babied for years, canceled subscriptions he swore he needed for self-care, cooked cheap meals, batch pots of curry that lasted days. Screenshots of payments pinged my phone like tiny apologies. I opened a new savings account, my name only. I told him about it. He didn't sulk or protest. He just said, Good. That one word held more honesty than any promise he'd ever made. We took buses instead of dreaming about cars. Nights out became nights in with discount wine. It wasn't romantic. It was survival. But there was progress. Small, measurable, boring progress. And boring was a relief after months of chaos. For the first time, I thought maybe, just maybe, he understood that trust isn't built with big speeches. It's built with bills paid on time and letters opened before they turn red. Just when I'd started to breathe again, an email landed in my inbox. Your application has been approved. My stomach dropped. Another loan. In my name. I stormed into the living room, laptop in hand. Explain. He looked genuinely stunned. I didn't do that. I called the lender. They traced the application to an IP address from a cafe near my sister's. Identity theft. Not him. This time he wasn't lying. But my nerves didn't care. My body reacted the same. Panic, mistrust, a sick certainty that I'd never be safe around money again. So I set the final terms. Separate finances, separate rent transfers, no joint purchases, no wedding plans. You keep paying your debts, and maybe one day we'll talk again. But for now, I need distance. He nodded, broken but calm. Okay. I don't want to lose you. You might, I told him, because keeping you could cost more than leaving. And that became our uneasy piece. Months passed. He stuck to payments. One card cleared, phone arrears gone. He worked nights, came home tired but steady. Each screenshot he sent wasn't just proof of payment. It was proof of effort. I stayed cautious. We lived slower, smaller, but with less noise. Trust rebuilt not in leaps, but in inches. Sometimes I still think about that dealership, the clipboard, the smile, the dream of driving away. But the truth is clear now. The car wasn't the only thing we couldn't afford. We couldn't afford lies.